We are live. Welcome everyone to our daily success call here in the e-commerce awesomeness group. John Lavenia here with you, as it's always a pleasure to be on a Wednesday morning. I do see some of my favorite people in the world. There's Millicent and Sarah and Ann, and let's see, we got Amber, Jay Kwarku. There's Ann, the other Ann, and Ralph. Good to see you, Ralph. And nobody else is on camera, so we'll just deal with that. You guys just get to look at me. Intimate crowd today. Did something happen? Was everybody up late at the pub or something? There's 19 of us here right now? Usually we got like 40, 50 people on here by now. But I guess so. Here's 20, 21. Okay, so here come the peoples. Welcome, peoples. Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here with you all. Hey, we got some friends in the UK joining us, as we do every day. I want to acknowledge the UK for just a minute because my wife got me a present, one of the best things to ever come out of the UK, at least in my humble opinion. And I'm not British, so my opinion really doesn't matter. But does anybody know what this is? Do you know what that is?
Yep.
Yeah, you do.
Licorice all sorts.
Yeah, all sorts, baby. This is the moderation sized bag, right? If I was buying it for myself, it would be yeah, but no, this is the practice moderation, John. Have a piece, couple pieces. That's it, and then put it away for later. Actually, that's how I typically eat these. This will last me 2 months, but it'll probably be stale and hard and whatever. Although now that I'm in Florida, what's that, Sarah? You had a comment? No? Okay. But now that I'm in Florida, maybe the humidity is helpful for these things, right? Maybe it stays moist. I don't know. It's in a resealable bag. But tell you, that's one of the good things about living in the desert, where I spent the last 20 years in Arizona and Utah, even, most of California, right? It's rather dry. But you could have like a bag of tortilla chips or something, and like a month later, it's good, right? I mean, there's no moisture in the air, right? So here I'm relearning and making sure bags of chips are tightly sealed lest they turn to mush. But anyway, good to be here with you guys. What does that have to do with e-commerce? Nothing. And yet here we are talking about it. Hey, Scott. Well-groomed Scott, ladies and gentlemen. Well-groomed Scott. So being busy, Scott and everyone who's just tuning in, I was asking just before we went live, asked Amber specifically. I put her on the spot. It's like, Amber, what are we talking about here today? She said, I'm just busy. Okay, so just busy. Yeah, we have I ever told you guys the story I'm about to tell you? I did? Okay, I won't tell it then. That one never gets old. But there was a time when I was a teenager and I was working in a car dealership. I was going to Nashville Auto Diesel College. A lot of you know that my professional training is auto and diesel technology. I know a lot about machinery. And so while I was working my way through diesel college, I would take jobs, fixing people's cars and stuff like that. Just, people I met in the area. But I wound up getting this regular, like, after school job working as a lot boy in a Buick dealership. Is Buick still around? I think they are. Pontiac is done. What of the General Motors brands are done? Pontiac, I know they eliminated that. But anyway, Buick. And so our me and one other guy that worked there, he was not a teenager. He was 90 or so. But I guess it's that or, Walmart or whatever he was going to do with his time. But no, sorry, we got some background noise here. Let me mute the microphones. There we go. Okay. But old Joe was there. And our job was to keep the cars clean. So we had this drive-through car wash. It sprays the water and, you wipe it off with a towel and everything. And you basically start at one end of the car lot. And then it might take you, a week or whatever to get to the other end. And then you go back to the other end, you do the cars, right? So you keep the cars clean for the customers, right? That was what we did to pass the time and to earn $5 an hour or whatever it was, right? This is 1988 and 89. All right. So anyway, I was doing that, but every time I would show up at work. Old Joe was already there. He's got nothing else to do with his day, right? I was just getting out of school. And how's it going, Joe? And his response was always, same old soup, just warmed over. I liked Joe. Joe has since passed on, but this was a low pressure job, right? It's like greeter at Costco or something. It's just like keep the cars clean. Don't think, don't make any decisions, right? Minimum wage, whatever. But that stuck with me. That stuck with me. That whole idea of same old soup just warmed over. Now later, I become a diesel diagnostician, and I worked on a tugboat fleet in New York Harbor, and then on land fixing trucks and heavy equipment, fixing cars, and then ultimately I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, because the guy who I was the last auto repair job I had, I was working in a shop, and the general manager was a drunkard. On his third divorce. His stats, the shop's statistics were not impressive, at least not that I could see. And I was thinking, I could run this business better than this guy. What the hell am I doing working for him? I should have my own business. Now, as a mechanic, I was a customer of the various tool companies that would come around, the trucks, Snap-on, Matco, Mac. And I was fond of the Matco brand. And so the Matco dealer one day said, I'm actually selling out. I'm, getting out, and somebody needs to take the route. Maybe you're a player, right? And so that was a franchise. All right. So it was about $100,000, which I didn't have. And so I wound up getting into that franchise. And then I was the guy showing up in the white truck every week at the auto shops, selling the tools to the mechanics and all this. And I remember showing up at various auto shops and hey guys, how's it going this week? Right. I'm trying to, get in there and, build some rapport and sell something, right? And you know what I heard? You know what I heard them say? Different words, same S, right? You can think of what word I'm thinking of. Same S, different day. Same old thing. Okay. So here they were, not 90 years old, not old Joe, just, watching the grass grow. Okay. But guys who were arguably at the prime of their career, like this is what they've chosen to do, right? Is to be, working at the Mercedes-Benz dealership or something, fixing, broken down German cars. But they, it was the same stuff, different day. And I was thinking, this is not how we want to end up. So with old Joe, he was, just having time, hang out on the car lot, doing something that, whatever. So you can buy some soup or something. With these guys, right, they're probably, hopefully they got like a retirement plan. They're looking to create, a future for themselves and their families. And I heard a saying, and this was years later, I heard a saying from someone which really hit me. And the saying is that in life, you either get better or you get bitter. You get better or you get bitter. So, Amber, all of this from you saying that you're busy, by the way, that one idea conjured all of this. So here's the question, everybody. You're busy, let's say. Hopefully you are. Are you busy doing on purpose actions? Are you busy with things that are productive and fruitful that you've determined for yourself? As an entrepreneur, I'm going in the direction I want to go. Earl Nightingale in his classic recording, and for those of you going through the accelerator program, this is one of the requirements, is that you're going to be getting into this audio program. It's 32 minutes long. Classic. It's called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, which I've listened to about 1,000 times. But in there, he defines success. He said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The progressive realization of a worthy ideal. In other words, progressively, not you haven't arrived or anything, but you're making progress. What progress? Making realizing. So you're progressively making real a worthy to who? Worthy to you. Oh, so self-determinism. I see. The progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Does that mean it's going to look exactly like that? Well, this is the ideal. Okay. But an educated person, according to Napoleon Hill, who was Earl Nightingale's mentor, one of his mentors, said an educated person is not a person with a vast collection of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is a person who can acquire whatever they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. That's an educated person. Okay, so back to the idea of a progressive realization of a worthy ideal, worthy of me, worthy of my time and my attention, my effort. See, a lot of times people think, well, I hope I'm worthy of my goal. I hope I can reach that goal. I hope I could do that. Wrong consideration. Are my goals worthy of me? Because Earl Nightingale went on, he said, so therefore, with that definition, who succeeds? I'll tell you who succeeds. It's the person who's deliberately doing the job that they chose to do. It's the salesman who is the best at his craft of selling his product or service. It's the school teacher who teaches school to create knowledgeable children and productive members of society. It's the person who is choosing actions deliberately and taking those to completion. That is the successful person. So you can be busy and you can get better through your actions, or you can get bitter. The line of demarcation, as I see it, is, are we going in the direction that we've chosen for ourselves? Are these actions that are keeping us busy, are they worthy of us? Because you're friggin' awesome. Oh yeah, you are, right? So the fact that you're here as an entrepreneur doing something entrepreneurial, right? In other words, expressing self-determinism, right? Reaching above mediocrity, saying, you know what, the workaday, job or whatever, that's not the whole answer. That's not the whole answer. Let me reach higher. Okay, great. So just by the virtue of the fact that now you're busy doing things that you chose to do deliberately because you've got a reason to, well, you're already successful. By definition, you're progressively realizing a worthy ideal. Now, the issue is, I think that line of demarcation, the issue arises when someone doesn't see a light at the end of the tunnel, where every day is just the same, busy for the sake of busyness, punching the clock. Joe's the exception, right? Joe was just killing time. He knew he wasn't long for the world, right? Being social, collecting a little paycheck, whatever. It was, I guess, that or go feed the pigeons at the park or something. But if you're just passing the time like these mechanics were, same stuff, different day, right? With no end in sight, I could see where you'd get bitter about that. I love being busy. What's the alternative? Being bored? Crickets? Oh, please. Oh, man. Somebody give me some work. Anybody seen the Robert Downey Jr.'s rendition of Sherlock Holmes, to bring this into a bit more modern time? So the movie Sherlock Holmes, was that about 10 years ago, which I thought was spectacular. It was the first time that they used those super high speed video cameras to capture every motion of, like, they're having a fist fight in like this bar or something. And the camera's so fast that they could slow it down. You could see like the sweat. It was just amazing film work. But at one point in the movie, Sherlock Holmes, as portrayed by Robert Downey Jr., he's in this room with all the shades drawn, the curtains, and he's trying to make a silencer for his revolver, trying to silence the sound of a gunshot. And he's sitting in there, and it's garbage all around, just crap everywhere, and it's not working, by the way. You can hear the gunshots down the street. He's just shooting into a wooden wall or something. But at one point, Dr. Watson opens the door and lets the light in. He's like, oh. And he's like, Sherlock, get your act together. We got to go somewhere. We got to do something. And Sherlock says, give me problems, give me work, right? His mind was idle. He was not busy, right? Give me problems, give me work. Which we're just citing a movie right now, a movie character. But can you not see that in your life? I mean, some of the most miserable people I've ever confronted are purposeless. Like while they're eating breakfast, they're wondering what's going to be for lunch. Really? I mean, that's it? Consume? So purpose. There's the line of demarcation. There's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. To what end are we busy? To what end are we doing stuff? Now, I know this is a very broad reaching and hopefully very relatable topic here that you can all kind of chew on and see where you're going with this. But if we look at each action that we're doing, regardless of the methods, You're doing e-commerce, right? The other guy, maybe right now somebody's watching on YouTube. Hello. And you're saying, well, does this apply to me? I do insurance, or I do medical, whatever. Fine, whatever the methods are. Okay. But to what end? In other words, where are you going? You need to know that. Otherwise, you get bitter. So with all this in mind, rejoice in your busyness, right? Assuming you're not just barking up the wrong tree. That's something for you to decide for yourself. And there is as many paths as there are people to take them. So the fact that you've chosen this one, which is a little bit different for each of you, right? Carol is different than Netta, is different than Scott, right? Everyone's got a different, nuance, right? Millicent is not going to work her business exactly the same way Amber or Sarah does. Okay, fine. But just know that you're on the right path. And then whatever you've got to do to demonstrate that to yourself. In other words, celebrate the wins, right? I mean, you can see that you're progressively realizing a worthy ideal with each little bit of progress, right? With each little win, assuming you acknowledge your wins, which is something I've been guilty of not doing through much of my life, right? It's like, well, get on to the next job, the next one, the next one, the next one, ad infinitum. It never ends. Don't stop and smell the roses. It's always striving, reaching, pushing. Well, you got to acknowledge your wins, right? You got to be able to see the fruits. Look, with this house we just moved into about a month ago, those of you who've been around for a month, I just recently moved cross country, starting fresh, all kinds of new stuff. But the garage, or as you guys say in England, since I'm looking at all sorts right now, the garage, you see, the garage was a wreck. Whoever had the house before, not the last people, but the people probably that built it, they had like an auto shop thing going on in there, and they got like wooden beams and like handmade shelves and like screwed into the stucco or the concrete walls. Block house, very nice, okay, but like the walls, the interior walls were torn up with like these crappy sagging wooden shelves. I'd rip all this crap out. Rip it all out. So I started with the front wall. I figured I'll start at the front, work my way back to the door, to the garage door. And so the front wall is done. And I put my tool chest in there, and it's all painted white. It's nice. It's gonna be nice, right? It'd be a little man cave in there. Have my Harley, my tools, right? My stuff. It's great. But a couple of times a day, and I just finished the front wall just like 2 days ago. But a couple of times a day, in fact, I already did it once today, I went out there and just marveled at its beauty. Like, look at that accomplishment. What a difference, right? I even took some before shots, so I have them in my phone. I can say, look at that ugliness, right? Oh, and now behold, right? So what is that? That's gratifying to me. And it's also objective. Okay, which I think is very therapeutic, right? So especially if you're in the thick of thin things, right? Or you're in the subjectivity of it all and all the decisions and all the things which you can't see the progress, well, then you need to balance that. You can do whatever you want, but I would suggest you balance that with something more objective, not subjective, but objective, right? Go, cut the grass or wash the dishes or something. I mean, that's therapeutic. Right? I know a lot of people gripe about washing the dishes and doing the laundry or whatever. And yeah, we can afford a housekeeper, but I'll tell you what, when I see that nice clean kitchen that I just made that happen, that's kind of nice. Look at that. That's progress right there. That's a result. I got a result. What does this have to do with e-commerce? Nothing. And everything. Scott. Save me, Scott. What am I talking about?
You don't need saving. Morning, John. Morning, everyone. I think it has everything to do with e-commerce and everything to do with life. I think it highlights, so many things. James Allen said something. He said, the will to do springs from the knowledge that we can do. And I think what you'll find is that people will never want or dream or get excited about anything that is beyond what they, honest to God, believe they can achieve. It's a self-defense mechanism, and it makes sense. Why would you want something that you don't think you can ever achieve? It makes perfect sense. So the question is, how do you raise your level of your perception of your ability? Because that's the key here. Now, to that extent, you can have goals. I think you have to have two sorts of goals: the long term and the short term. The long term goals, you can get excited about, but sometimes it's hard to get excited about long term goals because they are so often beyond your perception of what you are capable of achieving. Intellectually, you know you can do it. You know you can be a millionaire. You know you can do whatever you want. But emotionally, it's harder to attach to those because they're so beyond the realm of the possible. Philosophically, you embrace them, but emotionally, it's harder. So that's why you then have to have short-term goals, goals for the week, the day, the hour, if need be. These are the small steps, the 1,000 steps that the Chinese talk about, the small steps towards that larger goal. And those smaller goals you can get excited about. And those smaller goals, the small achievements that give you a bit of a buzz, they increase your perception of your ability, expand it a little bit, and just to get the next small goal on the way to the bigger goal. But those smaller goals progressively get bigger, and they progressively increase your perception of your ability. And so they therefore progressively increase your excitement about the next goal and make it easier to develop an emotional attachment with the larger long-term goal. Because it's a process. It's a process. I mean, yeah, I think that's very important to have the goals of those two natures, and they work together synergistically to create a totally different perception of yourself as you move forward. Because, as I said, you're not going to be fired up about something you don't believe you can do, no matter what anyone else says. What anyone else says is actually irrelevant. It's what you believe yourself, and that perception has to change. Otherwise, you won't move beyond that. That's why those people, same old, same old. You asked, what's the best you can expect from life? I guarantee they would have said, "Oh, this is it. This is as good as it gets." and they lived that reality, and that's fine. But in a way, they were living within their own prison, a prison created by their own minds. And that's all it was. They didn't see it. They couldn't see the bars, but they were as real as anything. And if you suggest this business or anything else to them that was way beyond what they perceived they were capable of, they would have resisted it completely. They would have said, "You're crazy." They would have done any sort of mind gymnastics to maintain the status quo where they were, because their perception of themselves was of that nature. And I think you made a very, very important point, about the same old business.
What do you think, Scott, and everyone? I mean, are there some ideas in here for T-shirts and coffee cups and stuff? On one side, we could say, same old, or this is as good as it gets, right? And there's an audience for that. They'll buy that, right? And on the other side, we could say, know thyself, or reach higher, or we're just talking about words right now. But what do people want to affirm every time they look at their coffee cup or display it, to their coworkers in the cubicle or something, right? So I'm just thinking look, if I can be this engaged with these basic ideas of life, I mean, yeah, other people have their attention on it too, whether they know it or not, right? So on both sides of the ravine there, you've got buy-in, right? I'm getting all kinds of product ideas right now. So yeah.
And John, if I could mention, you talk about Sherlock Holmes and this idea of productivity, because he obviously had the real or fictional character obviously had a very, very high perception of what he was capable of, and so he wanted to fulfill that perception. He lived a dichotomous life, and in terms of what he perceived he could do and what he was actually doing. So he had to be true to his own image. Someone who could do all these things. So he couldn't stand still. In that context, I just let you know. The other day I bought a little device, a little dictaphone. If you can see it, I'm not sure you can see it. I can't see it.
It's coming and going with your false background. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
The whole idea of that was to basically capture ideas as they occur, so I don't lose them. Because often, you go out shopping, you talk to people, whatever it is, and you get an idea, anything, and that presumably, in a way, the dead time can actually be active time. And I'm finding that productivity tool is immensely valuable. I just went for a coffee the other day at McDonald's, and I came up with ideas for designs. I came up for, insights into this sort of material and the things I've been thinking about. And my mind's productive, it's active, but it's not an overwhelming, it's not unpleasant. It's just a creative process. And that increases my productivity. I came back with several more designs, a lot of maybe some really good designs, hopefully, and I'll tease that out. But that productivity, any little things like that. So no time is wasted and no thought is wasted. That's something we can sort of capture, because so many of ideas and things just vanished, and it may not come back to you for months, years, if ever. And that could be $1 million idea. And if it's come and gone, you've lost it. So I don't want that to happen.
Well, there you go. Question for you, technical question. Then we're going to hear from Carol, who's awesome. But did you not have a voice memo app on your smartphone?
I do, but I find this is quicker and easier.
Okay.
It's quicker and easier, and I'm all for speed. I want to be able to just do it quickly, and then I come back and review it, and then I actually transfer it into a note form for review later on and brainstorming later on, because sometimes you get an idea and you need to tease it out, and it can lead to other things, other implications, and just ways of thinking that can open up a whole new pathways for you.
Fair enough. I was just thinking, why have another device? I mean, I got a phone. It's got, I don't know, half a terabyte of memory and voice. I could just say, hey, voice memo. So, but of course I'm a biker. So I'm always thinking, how much space does it take up? What does it weigh? Do I really have to take this with me? Right.
Well, actually arose because I was driving down from Queensland to Victoria about a few days ago, and I was actually watching videos from the course, and I had some ideas on the way, and I couldn't do it while I was watching the videos on the course and the phone. So I need another device so I can just record these ideas quickly. And that's where I came up.
Very good. Thank you, Scott.
No worries.
Hey, Carol Evermore's here. Carol, ladies and gentlemen, here she is. Hello. There she is. Hey, Carol.
Hey. Just following on from what Scott was saying about big goals kind of feeling like they're really, really far away. I remember reading a book by a guy called Matthew Miekowitz, really small book, but it's brilliant. It's called Life in Half a Second. So if you ever wonder what you're here for, or, oh my gosh, life is terrible, read that book. It will knock your socks off. But he has a tool for goal setting. And I just find this I like simple. So, and if you can see that, basically you do a pyramid with your big goal at the top. And then what are the steps that you need? If you need to chunk something down, if it feels like it's really massive, and then normally you have about 4 levels, then the one underneath, what are the 2 steps before that, the 3 steps before that. And what you want to do is have that on like a little card, and you just carry it around with you. Because you'd be amazed the amount of people who say, what are you working on? And you can go, I'm working on this. The number of times I've actually spoken to people and they go, oh, I know a bit about this bit that you want down here. Or I know where you could look, or I know who you could talk to, or have you thought about this? And it's just a really nice way of, instead of looking at the big goal, and it doesn't matter what it is, it just helps to get you focused on that smaller, more achievable thing. And you don't have to do it sequentially, because sometimes you get something up here that's quite high level. Or like Scott was saying about having an idea in his head, you can just pop it in here to just go, okay, that's the area I want to be in. So you can kind of jump around without having to try and like remember everything.
Thank you. Good times. Look at that. Look at all these ideas that are coming up today. This is good, usable stuff. Thank you, Carol. All right. Anybody else? I don't see any of their hands up. Anybody else got some thoughts on whatever this topic is here? Being busy?
I do.
Yes. Hey, Pat.
Hey. 2 thoughts came to me. Anybody that has children know that it's a worthy ideal, trying to bring them up, and that you learn from them. And when my son was about 3, we used to go to a park to feed the ducks and we'd have a picnic. And I was always teaching him that, you have to pick up your garbage and put it in the trash can because we don't leave a mess behind us. And all of a sudden, a man came out of the trees. He must have been 6'5" or so, weighed a couple 100 pounds. And he was eating something. And when he finished, he tossed the wrapper on the ground. And this little 3-year-old ran up to him and said, "Didn't your mother teach you that you're not supposed to do that? You're supposed to put it in the garbage." And the man looked at him and I'm thinking, oh. He walked back, picked up his thing, walked over and put it in the trash. And I thought to myself, that's 2 things. He had the perception that he could do it, and he had the courage to do it. I said, now, I would have probably given the guy a dirty look, but I certainly wouldn't have had the courage to walk up to him and say, "That's wrong. Pick it up and put it in the garbage." And I think when we do our goals and things like that, we have to break it down. We have to perceive that we can do it. And then we have to have the courage to do it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
Yes. And what a lesson from a 3-year-old, right?
Oh, I learned a lot from my kids.
Yeah. That's great. I'm wondering if there was what I would do in that situation. Probably something sarcastic, like walk up behind them and say, "Oh, King Farouk, let me pick up your trash for you. Let me go ahead and do that." So, oh my goodness.
Another one I learned from my kids, it isn't pertinent here, but it's meant a lot to me, especially now at my age, is my young son didn't want to go visit one of our relatives because they were old. And I mentioned my grandmother, who was his great-grandmother, who was in her 80s. And I said, "You'd love to go visit her, and she's old." And thought, like little kids can think. And he looked up at me and says, "Granny's not old. She just has years."
Uh-huh.
And that's what I want my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to be able to say about me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
All right. Glad you're here. There's a lot of wisdom on this line here today. Look at this. Hey, Scott, why don't we wrap up with you?
Yeah, I was just kind of looking. You were talking about the purpose and to what end, and really kind of thinking about if we're being busy, like you say, to what end? It's like, is it busyness that gets us nowhere, or is it busyness that gets us somewhere? And what I was thinking of, because I was just reading the quadrant with the 4-quadrant book, one of the recommendation readings this morning. And I remember I was reading the part where what really stuck out with me was the path is the goal. And as I was reading that, I remembered a picture, and some of you may have seen this before, but it's a picture, it's a little cartoon picture of this guy with a pickaxe. And he just keeps digging in this tunnel. And it shows this big old tunnel. He's dug a really, really, really long tunnel. I don't know how long it was. But then the next picture, it shows him turning around and giving up and starting to walk back out the tunnel. But they show you the picture of there was only about maybe a foot left that he had to go pickaxing, and the goal was on the other side. So anyway, it was just a visual that kind of reminded me of he was on a path, he was busy, and he was just almost there, and he finally said, "Oh, forget it, I'm going the other way," and he missed it by a foot. So anyway, that's what it reminded me. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Scott. I'm sure some people here are familiar with the tale 3 Feet from Gold, which was an actual historical event. Here's this guy, he's got some land or whatever, and he's looking for gold, and he's not educated, nor did he hire professionals like metallurgists or geologists or whatever, but he wound up selling out the plot of land. Professionals came in, and this guy stopped digging 3 feet away from the biggest vein of gold. Right. So what was that? well, a lost opportunity, a very costly one too. But had he just gotten some mentoring or something, wow. So that was a statement of ignorance. I don't know where the gold is. The guy with the pickaxe doesn't know, the destination is right there. So interesting stuff. We can certainly, yeah. Perry's asking a question. Wasn't the story in Napoleon Hill's The Science of Getting Rich? Well, the story was in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Science of Getting Rich was written before that, and that was by Wallace D. Wattles. Read them both, by the way, multiple times. Okay, so thank you, Perry. All right, good stuff, guys. Let's wrap it up. Let's get together again. Karen's going to be here with you tomorrow. I'll be here with you for Fun Friday. What do you guys want to do? Funny hats or Hawaiian shirts? What do you think? Fun Friday. Hats or shirts? Don't see any votes? No, hats? All right, I see Carol, hats. All right, I'm going to wear a funny hat. Wait do you see this? I'll see you guys on Friday. Make it a great day. You so deserve it, all right? We'll see you soon. Bye for now.